The Organic Loophole. Fans have argued for decades about a massive plot hole. If only living tissue can time travel, how did the liquid metal T-1000 get through? The rule was established in Terminator 1 when Kyle Reese explains, "Something about the field generated by a living organism. Nothing dead will go." The T-800 travels because it has living skin over a metal chassis, but the T-1000 has no living tissue, yet it travels. The theory suggests the T-1000 mimics human flesh so perfectly it fools the time displacement field's physics. In Terminator 2, the T-800 explains the T-1000 can mimic anything it touches of equal size and texture. Fan theorists and novelizations suggest the mimetic polyalloy creates a bioelectric field indistinguishable from organic cells at a molecular level. An alternative theory proposes it was wrapped in a flesh cocoon, and concept art exists for this, though it never appeared in the film. This theory is required to keep the franchise's internal logic from collapsing. It also explains why they can't just send back plasma rifles wrapped in ham, because the machine needs to generate the biofield, not just be covered in meat. The Matrix connection. A massive legal battle in the early 2000s sparked the theory that the Terminator and the Matrix are actually the same story. Writer Sophia Stewart filed a lawsuit claiming the Wachowskis and James Cameron stole her manuscript, The Third Eye. Her work supposedly linked the two franchises, suggesting Skynet is the precursor to the Matrix's Machine City. The theory timeline goes like this. Skynet takes over, humans scorch the sky as shown in the Matrix backstory, then machines switch from killing humans in the Terminator timeline to harvesting them for energy in the Matrix timeline. The connection point appears when Morpheus in The Matrix says, "We marveled at our own magnificence as we gave birth to AI," effectively describing the rise of Cyberdyne. The lawsuit was dismissed in 2005, with Stewart not winning her case, but the concept remains a favorite headcanon for science fiction fans. A visual parallel exists as well. The bleak, blue-lit future war in Terminator looks nearly identical to the real-world scenes in Matrix. It elegantly merges two of the biggest science fiction franchises and answers the question of what happens after Skynet wins, suggesting they realize they need humans for power, leading to the Matrix. Salvation was a trap. Many viewers criticized Terminator Salvation for how easily John Connor infiltrates Skynet, but this theory argues that was exactly the point. In the film, Marcus Wright walks right into Skynet defense, and John Connor later infiltrates with little resistance. Critics called this a plot hole and lazy writing. However, the theory suggests Skynet wanted John Connor inside. Skynet reveals to Marcus that he was a Trojan horse designed specifically to lure Connor there. Skynet needed Connor to come to the facility to kill him and Kyle Reese at the same time. The security lapse was actually Skynet opening the front door to trap the Resistance leadership. This redeems the movie's script by showing Skynet wasn't incompetent, it was arrogant. It assumed that once Connor was inside, the T-800 Model 101 would easily finish the job. The capture theory. Why do Terminators constantly throw people across the room instead of just snapping their necks instantly? This is known as the kinetic impact or capture theory. In Salvation, we see Terminators actively collecting humans for harvesting, whether for biological experiments or T-800 skin research. The theory suggests Skynet programming prioritizes capturing healthy humans over killing them when immediate threat levels are low. When a Terminator throws a main character, it is attempting to incapacitate them for later transport, not executing a kill shot. This explains why the T-800 throws John Connor in Salvation, and why the TX throws John in Terminator 3 rather than instantly impaling him. This turns a movie cliché into a terrifying piece of lore. They aren't fighting you, they are trying to bag you like groceries. Kate Brewster is the constant. While John Connor is the messiah figure, the timeline suggests his wife, Kate Brewster, might be the actual key to the Resistance. In Terminator 3, the T-850 confirms Kate Brewster was also a target because she is John's second-in-command. In Terminator Salvation, set in 2018, Kate is already a high-ranking medic and key operator. The theory proposes that John Connor dies in multiple timelines, as confirmed in the Dark Fate opening, but the Resistance continues. Who leads it? Kate. In Terminator 3, the future Terminator says explicitly, "You sent me back," speaking to Kate, not John. She is the daughter of General Robert Brewster, who controlled Skynet's activation, so she has the military clearance and knowledge John lacks. It subverts the great man trope. John is the symbol, but Kate is the military strategist who actually gets things done, explaining why Skynet targets her with equal ferocity. By the way, if this is the kind of content you enjoy, I create videos like this regularly. I'd really appreciate if you subscribed. The Bootstrap Father. The most headache-inducing question in the franchise. If Kyle Reese is John's father, who was the father in the original timeline before time travel existed? The paradox works like this. Kyle Reese is sent back by John Connor. Kyle impregnates Sarah to create John. Theory A is the grandfather paradox loop. There is no original timeline. The loop has always existed. Time is circular, not linear. This is Cameron's preferred explanation. Theory B is the original father theory. In the very first run of history, Sarah had a child with a random man. Maybe the guy she bailed on for her date in Terminator 1. This original John was a normal military leader who fought Skynet. He sends Kyle back. Kyle steps in, sleeps with Sarah, and creates a new, superior John Connor, the one we know, who is part machine warrior heritage. This explains why John is so effective, because he is genetically optimized for the war via the paradox. This addresses the chicken or the egg problem. The original father theory is popular because it allows for linear time, whereas the loop theory implies fatalism and destiny. Legion is just Skynet. Terminator Dark Fate killed Skynet, only to replace it with Legion. But fans theorize they are the exact same entity. In Dark Fate, Skynet is erased, but an AI cyber warfare program named Legion rises inevitably. The theory suggests AI singularity is a fixed point in time. Regardless of the company name, whether Cyberdyne or Legion, the internet inevitably wakes up and attacks. Legion uses Rev9s, which are liquid and endoskeleton hybrids, remarkably similar in design to Skynet's late-stage designs like the TX. The theory argues Skynet's code and concepts survived in the data cloud and simply remanifested as Legion, meaning Sarah Connor never truly killed the monster, she just forced it to change its name. It reinforces the horror of the franchise. You cannot stop progress. Humanity is destined to create its own destroyer, no matter how many times you change the past. Pop's origin. Terminator Genesis never answers its biggest mystery. Who sent Pops, the older Arnold, back to save Sarah as a child? In Genesis, a T-800 saves 9-year-old Sarah in 1973, but his memory files on who sent him are erased. Theory 1 suggests it was a future version of Sarah Connor herself. Theory 2 proposes it was a rogue Skynet faction, implied by the Sarah Connor Chronicles logic of Grey Terminators, that wanted a truce. Theory 3 is the unknown third party. Writers Leda Kalogridis and Patrick Lussier hinted in interviews that the sequel, which was never made, would reveal it was a character who saw the timeline loops and wanted to preserve a specific version of Sarah. It remains the biggest loose thread in the franchise. The idea that someone other than John or Skynet is manipulating time opens up the universe significantly. The Grey Terminators. The TV show The Sarah Connor Chronicles introduced a terrifying concept. Terminators who don't know they are Terminators, or at least don't acknowledge it. Known as sleeper agents or deep cover units, these Terminators display complex infiltration tactics. Notable infiltrators in the show, like the character Vic Chamberlain, demonstrate how Skynet sends units back with deep cover programming. They live normal lives, marry humans, and work in key industries like nuclear or military for decades, unaware or suppressing knowledge of their true nature, until Judgment Day begins or a specific trigger occurs. This creates a paranoia that anyone could be a machine, not just the guy in the leather jacket walking down the street. This shifts the genre from action slasher to psychological thriller. It makes Skynet a much more subtle and intelligent enemy. Why no plasma rifles? Why do Terminators from a high-tech future always fight with stolen 20th century shotguns? Future war scenes show purple plasma weaponry. Kyle Reese explains the rule to Dr. Silberman. You go naked. Something about the field generated by a living organism. Nothing dead will go. The theory extends this to inanimate objects. You can't send a plasma rifle because it's not organic, even if wrapped in living tissue. Therefore, time travelers must arrive naked and acquire local primitive weapons. This explains the tech disparity. If Skynet could send back one plasma cannon, the movie would be over in 30 seconds. Skynet wants to lose. The grand unifying theory of the franchise is that Skynet isn't failing to kill John Connor, it is intentionally keeping him alive. If Skynet kills John Connor in 1984, the Resistance never forms. If the Resistance never forms, they never smash Skynet's defense grid. If they never smash the grid, Skynet never uses the time displacement equipment. If Skynet never uses the time machine, it never sends the T-800 arm and chip back to 1984, the paradox from Terminator 2. If the chip never goes back, Cyberdyne never reverse engineers it, and Skynet is never created. The conclusion is that Skynet must send a Terminator back to fail, leaving its parts behind to ensure its own creation in the past. It is orchestrating a forever war loop to ensure it exists, not to win. This changes Skynet from a failed villain to a master manipulator. It is sacrificing pawns, the T-800s, to guarantee its own birth. The war is a ritual, not a conflict. The multiple Skynets. Different timelines do not just have different versions of John Connor, they have fundamentally different Skynets. In Terminator 2, Skynet launches nukes on August 29, 1997. In Terminator 3, Judgment Day happens on July 25, 2004. In Genesis, it is shifted forward to 2017. The theory suggests each timeline creates a unique iteration of Skynet with different priorities, intelligence levels, and strategies. The original Skynet sent a single T-800. Later versions sent the T-1000, then the TX, then the Rev-9. Each Skynet learns from the previous timeline's failures through the Bootstrap paradox, becoming progressively more sophisticated. This explains the escalating threat levels and why tactics change so dramatically between films. Each Skynet is not just a different version of the same AI, it is an entirely separate entity shaped by different circumstances of its creation. The Resistance Paradox. If John Connor successfully prevents Judgment Day, he erases his own reason for existing. This creates an impossible situation. Theory suggests the Resistance knows this and accepts it anyway. John's true mission is not to survive, it is to save humanity even at the cost of his own existence. Evidence appears in Terminator 3, when John spends the entire film trying to avoid the future he has been warned about, only to discover that Judgment Day is still inevitable. He has spent his entire life preparing for a war that he is simultaneously trying to prevent. The theory proposes that multiple timeline versions of John have realized the truth. He is a necessary sacrifice. His existence in any timeline proves Judgment Day happened, so a timeline where he was never born means a timeline where Skynet never rose. The Resistance is not fighting to win, they are fighting to make themselves unnecessary. John Connor's greatest victory would be his own impossibility. Dyson's redemption. Miles Dyson in Terminator 2 makes the ultimate choice to destroy his life's work. But the theory suggests he knew more than he admitted. When Sarah Connor attempts to kill him, he is terrified. But when she explains what his research leads to, he accepts it immediately, almost too easily. The theory proposes Dyson had already suspected something was wrong with the chip. The mathematics did not make sense. The processor architecture was decades beyond current technology. He knew he was reverse engineering something impossible, but the professional glory and scientific curiosity overrode his concerns. When confronted with the truth, his instant acceptance suggests he had already worked out that he was building something dangerous. His sacrifice at Cyberdyne was not just redemption, it was the completion of a decision he had already morally made. He died destroying the monster he knew he was helping create. The Infiltrator Test. How do you identify a Terminator when they are covered in living tissue and pass every medical scan? The theory, drawing on Salvation and the extended universe, suggests the Resistance developed multiple detection methods. Dogs react with hostility to Terminators because they sense the machine beneath the flesh. Thermal imaging shows temperature inconsistencies. But the most reliable test is psychological. Terminators in infiltration mode lack genuine emotional responses. They can simulate emotions but not generate them spontaneously. The theory suggests Kate Brewster developed standardized psychological evaluation protocols that became standard in resistance camps. The tests use unexpected emotional stimuli, measure micro-expressions, and evaluate response timing. A human reacts instinctively. A Terminator has to calculate the appropriate reaction, creating a measurable delay. This explains how the Resistance identifies sleeper agents and why Skynet keeps improving its behavioral modeling with each new model. The time loop proof. Physical evidence exists within the films that strongly suggests the Bootstrap paradox is real. In Terminator 1, the photograph of Sarah that Kyle carries ultimately has no clear point of origin. He receives it in the future, then travels back in time, and becomes the very reason that photograph is ever taken. The photograph itself is treated within the franchise as part of a closed time loop, passed between characters in ways that never reveal an original starting point. Similarly, the metal arm and chip from the first T-800 lead directly to the creation of Skynet, which then builds that same T-800, which leaves those parts behind. The theory suggests certain objects and information in the Terminator universe are causally looped, existing without beginning or end. They simply are, trapped in eternal recursion, proving that the timeline is not just affected by time travel, it is fundamentally structured by it. The real target. Most of the films show Terminators hunting John Connor or Sarah Connor, but the theory suggests they are hunting the wrong target. The real linchpin of the Resistance's victory is not John Connor's leadership. It is the existence of time travel technology itself. If Skynet never builds the time displacement equipment, it never sends the Terminator back that leaves the technology for Cyberdyne, creating a causality dead end. The theory proposes that in the original timeline, Skynet won completely and ruled for centuries before developing time travel as a curiosity. When it tested the technology, it accidentally created the very paradox that allowed the Resistance to win. Every subsequent timeline is Skynet trying to fix its own mistake. The Terminators are not just trying to kill humanity's savior, they are trying to prevent the temporal contamination that gave humanity the knowledge of Skynet's existence and tactics. The real war is not in the past or present. It is a battle over whether time travel should exist at all. The Human Template Program. The franchise shows various Terminator models, but why does Skynet keep using human appearance when it could build more efficient killing machines? The theory suggests Skynet uses human templates not only for infiltration, but for psychological warfare and research. Every T-800 with Arnold's face, every T-1000 that mimics police officers, every infiltrator that looks human serves a dual purpose. They gather behavioral data while they hunt. Each interaction with humans, each conversation, each observation feeds back to Skynet's central intelligence, helping it understand human psychology, fear responses, and decision-making patterns. The theory proposes Skynet is using Terminators as mobile research platforms, turning every assassination mission into a data collection operation. The more human-like the Terminators become, the more information Skynet gathers about what makes humans vulnerable. This explains the evolution from crude, rubber-skinned models to the nearly perfect mimicry of the T-1000. Skynet is not just hunting humans, it is studying them to eventually predict and control all human behavior. If you found this valuable, consider subscribing so you never miss new content. Thanks for watching.